and welcome. You're tuning in to Unbreakable Hope with me, your host, Jessica Rose. This podcast is all about seeking the light. In each episode, we chat with someone who has either overcome the darkness or who is actively spreading light within their own community. So let's jump into today's episode. Today's special guest I have for you is Susan, who is the elite queen of the world for USA. She has a very lovely story that I'm so excited to be able to share with you today. She is an empowering woman who had a second shot at love, which not a lot of us believe is possible. So she tells some of her story there, from being a mom of two daughters, going to college, and really rebirthing her life and all that she's gone and grown through, and what she's able to do now supporting her community. So let's jump into today's episode. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited about our chat today.
Oh, same here. I'm very excited. Thanks for having me, Jessica.
Well, I know we've gotten to connect a little bit before we started recording, and I would love to pass it over to you so you can introduce yourself to our audience and we can start learning more about you and all the amazing things you do.
Thank you very much. I'm Susan DeLano. I'm the Elite USA Queen of the World. I was crowned in January of this year, and I'm really excited because I get to compete at internationals in May against women from all over the world and meet some amazing women. I'm a business professional, an entrepreneur. My husband and I have our own small little woodworking company, and I've had a second chance at love, which I don't think a lot of people get to have that, and I'm very honored to have that too.
That is something that's so sweet and special. I know a couple people probably in my life who have had that opportunity, so I'm really excited to dive more into that. I also, you said woodworking, so kind of like maybe derailing here, but my husband used to do a lot of woodworking. So I'm going to put a personal interest on that one. What got you into woodworking, and maybe what's your like favorite thing to make?
Oh, yeah. My father, when I was younger, my dad had a woodworking shop in the house, and he did a lot of cabinet building and a lot of cool things, and he kind of taught me along the way. And then I had an opportunity after marrying my husband to get back into woodworking, and I really enjoy that. But what I do is different than what my dad did. I do a lot of natural woods, a lot of live edge is what it's called, and so I work a lot with Texas mesquite in the harder woods, making tables and end tables and desks and that kind of thing. Sometimes beds, just depends on what I feel like doing at the time.
I think that's so fun. I definitely going to have to send you a picture too of mesquite. My husband's from Texas, and on his mom's farm, a tree went down. So he actually shaved it and made this beautiful long, like mantle,
Yes.
basically. And
Yeah.
it is so cool with those live edges that you're talking about. I could just imagine other furniture being made that way. So I bet that's so lovely.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a lot of fun. I do a lot of crosses too. I mostly do those for gifts, but then I have a little shop that I sell a bunch a month. It's keeping up with it. Sometimes it's hard, it's like, I need to go out in the wood shop. I need to start being creative again. So, but I do the best I can. So yeah.
That's really exciting. I can't wait to see some of the work you've done. Well, let's jump back into the other thing that maybe more people are excited about. And I love when talking about a second chance of love because there's so many times in life where people feel like they missed out or maybe they only had the one shot. But
Right.
I I would love to talk about what that looks like for you, and I'm sure our audience is really excited too.
Oh, well, thank you. Going through some of the chaotic moments in life, you never think love will ever be there again. In fact, I remember the day, well, about a week before I met my husband, my father was visiting me in Colorado, and he said, Susan, are you ever going to settle down again? And I'm like, Dad, I've got two kids. I'm going to college full time. I'm working full time. I don't have time for a man. But if I did, God would have to place that man on my lap, put a big red bow on him, and say, this is the one. He is the one. And he's going to love your children as his own, because otherwise it's not going to ever happen. And then I went on a blind date with my husband, and 4 months later we were married. So, and that was 21 years, a little over 21 years ago now. And I'm blessed. I'm very blessed to have that strength and that support system and that unconditional love. And last night we were going to bed, and my husband looked at me and he says, you know what, I love you more today than I loved you the day we married. And I'm like, I love you too. Just like it warms your heart when they say stuff like that. It's like, okay, what do you want? But it was just sincere, and he knows I have this quirky little thing. A couple months ago, he pulled back the sheets on my bed, pulled back the bed, and I'm like, "Oh, I like when you do that." So the next day, he does it again and pulls back the sheets while we're getting ready for bed and puts a candy on my bed and puts a little note, and I'm like, it's those types of things that we forget, the small things in life that really matter, and, I'm tearing up thinking of it because I'm thinking, how many small little gestures do we need to do to show our affection to somebody, and it matters. It just matters. It matters every day.
Is so true, so true. I remember that my husband hates Valentine's Day. He hates it. There's a lot of people like that. He's like, it's a commercial holiday. If I want to buy you flowers, I should just be able to buy you flowers whenever. So the big joke used to be like, yeah, but you never buy me flowers for like any reason, like ever. And I remember I had a really toxic work environment I was in, and I would just come home like crying every day because I hated it so much. And I came home one day and he had a frozen, like Disney frozen balloon with flowers and another balloon that said, "You are special." And then I cried even harder. And he had gotten me a box of chocolates, which are my favorite chocolate. And I just thought, holy smoke, I never like he actually paid attention. He actually realized it. And little moments like that, he would do something big and it did. It felt big, it felt huge. But sometimes it's just the small little sweet things. And then that's what brightens our day. It's those little things that turn us towards the light and reminds us that, wow, life is good. We are loved, even on chaotic days. That really can move mountains.
Oh, 100% agree with you. 100% agree with you.
So we've had a few guests on that are moms or stepmoms, and one of the things that always seems to come up is what is a piece of advice that you can give, and maybe not just like a mom to your children, but maybe even a piece of advice for blended families where there's another person that comes in and is loving your kids. I think that's a really sweet, special moment.
Love them unconditionally as if they're their own. That's my big word of advice. So many times we put these titles that said, oh, they're my stepchildren, or they're this, or they're that. Most people don't realize that I was married prior to and had two young children. My girls were 9 and 11 when we married. So they're in their 30s now. But um, love them unconditionally as their own, and we use that phrase "step," we just don't allow it, and, it's made a difference in our girls' lives, 100% made a difference in our girls' lives.
That's beautiful. I think with mine, so my husband had a son with his prior marriage. And normally when I tell people, I'm just like, my son, my son, my son. And I always get you look too young to have a 19-year-old son. Or there's always like an and then thing. Or when
Uh-huh.
people are talking about
Yeah,
their pregnancy, I was like, oh, that's when I have to like say, well, okay, I didn't birth him. He's still my son. I just didn't birth him.
right.
So sometimes that comes up. But I remember the first time he was calling a friend on the phone. And he said something about my mom, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, he called me mom. Like, this is so special. This is so sweet. So I think it goes kind of both ways too, if you think about it as like an adult also having that moment to think that's so powerful for the kid too, to be like, oh, this is my son. It is.
It
So,
is, it's a child, it's your baby, and you would do anything for those children. Um,
oh yes. Oh yes. And all the times I call my own mom up and say, you're not gonna believe this, and then she just laughs, right?
yes, we all do. I still do that when my daughter calls about my grandkids, I'm like, "I can believe it because you did it." So, it doesn't shock me that much.
Kind of on the same note, you are a grandmother. I'm sure you get a lot that I can't believe you're old enough to be a grandmother. How exciting. So, how many grandkids do you have, and what is your favorite thing about being a grandmother?
I have Ryan is 3 and Brinley is 8, and I do get it a lot. Most of the time, it's when I'm in pickup line or at the grocery store, it's like, "She just called you Mimi," and I'm like, "Mm, yeah, she's my granddaughter." I'm like, "Yeah, you're not old enough." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I am." Believe it or not. And no, we did not start young, I just look young. I think the most favorite thing is really seeing them thrive. My granddaughter actually struggles with dyslexia, and so I was like, "How can I help her through this moment of reading and understanding the written language, and really encourage her. So over Christmas this year, we actually wrote a book. It's called Charlie, My Best Friend, and she's been reading it all over this all over the city, and it's really helped her self-esteem and helped her reading. um, to really capture those words and understand what those words mean, but understand the process of how to write a book. In fact, we're going to write a second one, so because she's enjoyed it so much, and she's telling her friends about it, and her friends want to learn, and so it's exciting to see her thrive, because I don't think as a parent, when you have your own children, sometimes we don't take those moments for those mild steps in life.
Mhm.
And as a grandparent, you really do, because you know how precious they are. As a parent, we kind of take it for granted a little bit. At least I did. I took it for granted. Like, "Oh, I have to get through this. I have to get through this next assignment." And yet, as a grandparent, it's like, oh, it took us 4 hours to do that. We're fine. We're fine. Yeah, I understand that we have to do this poster board and this whole written assignment thing, but you take that time and really embrace it as a grandparent.
I think it's a good perspective, especially sometimes when we're in it, we're too in it. So when you're a parent and you're go, 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 go like every day, I kind of compare this to being a caregiver for my husband, right? I love my husband. Do I want to spend 24/7 with him? Absolutely not. But, it's that when I get a break and someone else is able to help, sometimes they're not in it all the time, that they can cherish moments more or slow things down a bit more when things need to be slower, where I'm like, but we have to go right now and we are going to be late to this appointment again, 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 and then a caregiver can come in and say, hey, I got this. So I think that's a great opportunity to say sometimes when you're in it, you do need to slow down. And how lovely to have a grandmother who's involved to say, hey, I got this. 4 hours. I'm going to cherish all 4 hours of these, and this is going to be wonderful. And being able to write a book, how fun is that for a kid to be able to say, hey, I've written a book and I'm going to do another one? That's
Oh
so
yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, she's very excited. In fact, we started talking about, so what theme do you want for the next one? The first one was kind of easier. We lost a pet and really grieving over that time frame. And I'm like, well, let's write a book about, everything that you guys did together, so you'll never forget those special moments. And so that's how we came up with Charlie, my best friend, and it just thrived from there. And it was easy for her to write. The second one, I'm not sure what we're going to write about yet. But I'm hoping it's just as easy, that it just kind of flows for her of, I want to write about this and this. I think it might be about self-confidence in reading. It might be her second book. Because I think a lot of kids struggle with reading, and they struggle with the humility part of it. Just to say, I can't read as bad as Susie next door to me, or Joey, on the other side of me. And so, we'll see.
Yeah, my oldest niece is dyslexic, and I remember how hard it was for her. And I kept saying like something's wrong. And of course, parents who are in it, they're frustrated. And I remember getting her a birthday card and she freaked out reading it. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like it shouldn't be this way. So there's something that needs to be addressed. So I'm I'm grateful that they did get her diagnosed with dyslexia so she can start getting supports that can help her further read, because reading is such a I don't my mind keeps wanting to say luxury. That's not it.
It's a necessity in life. It
It's
really is. It's a
yes,
necessity,
necessity.
because if you can't read, you can't do the math problems even. Even though you may soar in math, if you can't read, you can't do the problems, because you don't understand what's written out for you to do. And so, I'm just proud of her that she's thriving, really thriving. And her teachers are proud of her, how much she has really started to embrace the written language and understand it and be able to sound out a word now. Um, Yeah, she's gonna do great. It's just,
Yeah.
it's catching on. Some kids just take a little bit longer than others, that's all.
Yeah, and it's really going to set her up for success later in life, and not being taken advantage of. So having that understanding, that's so important. I'm sure this ties in a lot to your personal movement of girl, you got this. I feel like that's just this energy that you display in all walks of life. So I'd love to dive in a little bit deeper to that.
Yeah, "Girl, you got this," is my movement, is what I call it. It's my passion in life. It's about overcoming obstacles in life, whether those obstacles are a broken marriage, like mine was, or not being able to read, like my granddaughter, her struggle with dyslexia, or for like me, when I was in school, I struggled a lot in school, and a lot of it was because I didn't apply myself where I really needed to apply myself. Or maybe it's just some self-worth. Most people don't know this. Well, some people do, I should say. About 2.5 years ago, I decided to go on a journey of bariatric surgery. I've lost over 125 pounds, half my body weight. And in the process of it, I really started to release some of those emotions that I had about myself and self-worth moments. I never felt I was worthy of certain things, and a lot of it was because of my weight. I didn't feel beautiful, I didn't feel sexy, but as the pounds came off and the layers started to fall, back, maybe, look at maybe an onion or a flower, as it started to unfold and started to blossom, I started to find out what I was really worth. And my self confidence went up with it. And that's what my book is about. The Girl You Got This book. It's about finding those moments in life and finding out what your real superpower is, and finding where the healing needs to happen. Because a lot of times it's healing, sometimes it's from childhood too. Childhood is not always what we dream it to be. Uh, and a lot of women struggle with self-confidence, especially as we get older. You think self-confidence is going to increase as we get older, but I'm almost 60, and let me tell you, sometimes self-confidence is hard. It's really hard.
That's so beautiful. That healing has so much power in it. And I'm a firm believer there's a book, The Body Keeps Score. So, like you mentioned, childhood traumas, those really linger and attach whether we notice or not. And every time I hear someone's story that they overcame so much, and when you lose all this weight, you've gained all this, it's almost like an exchange in my mind, right? Is you're shedding all this negativity that's just coming off in pounds, and you're able to gain that beautiful inner self that you have and let that light shine into the world. I'm sure that's something that you definitely shine brightly when you're on stage as well, being able to really empower that. And like you said, at every age, we battle self-confidence. So I'm sure that's something that you still, even with this glowing light on stage, I'm sure there's still some doubts and stuff that you have as well competing, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and for me, pageantry is more than just on stage. What happens behind the stage. It's for me, as a woman and as a mentor, I believe in 100% being committed to women, and to not only to women and to uplift them, but to volunteerism and to be an impact in my community, and across the globe, because that's where the real change happens. The stage is only a couple of hours, right? Um, but we've got to think way beyond that. You've got to have a purpose, and my purpose is to build self-esteem in other women, because I believe that's the greatest gift of all, whatever that happens to be.
Beautiful. The greatest gift being able to have self-confidence, because think of how many people are stepping out of their comfort zones and making all these positive impacts in their community, that if everyone had a little bit more confidence in their abilities, because we all do, we all have our own unique abilities that the world is just waiting for,
Yeah.
right? I think of that all the time is people are so unique and we don't have the same talents. It's why we're humans. We're different. We're meant to be different. So I love the idea of, I just see this like visual, I see this like army of women being empowered and having the self-confidence to go out and make changes within themselves and then within their communities. And I just see such a beautiful light that that's making.
Oh, yeah. I 100% agree with you on that. 100%. And it's happening across the globe, which is exciting to me.
Now, I know that you have done a lot, and we've touched a little bit on it with your transition. So from being a single mother, then you went to college with two younger kids. So I want to give you a little time to maybe talk a little bit more about what that was like and maybe some of the things that you learned along the way.
Oh, yeah. So, when my divorce happened, I had to make a hard decision. And that decision for me was to move across the country. At the time, I lived in Michigan. Um, I was working full time, raising the girls, doing fine. Uh, and also, I had my own company back then. It was a catering company doing very well. It was thriving. Uh, but I knew I had a bigger purpose, and I knew God was calling me in a different direction. And I remember there was the Sunday before I decided to make the move. The prayer of Jabez was the the sermon, and it was a hard sermon for me to take at the time, but it was a sermon I needed to hear. And so I decided to move across the country to Colorado, and in the midst of it, sold everything we had. Everything. The only thing we had was what we could fit in the car and the camper, which wasn't much, let me tell you. But it was the best move for me because I ended up going back to college. It's something that I really wanted to do, but I couldn't do it in Michigan. I needed a bigger support system, and I needed the independence away from some of the chaotic hurts that happened in Michigan to me. And Colorado was a blessing because I went back to college. I obtained my college degree. I got a degree in communications with a minor in marketing and a minor in business, with emphasis in mediation and public relations. And in the midst of it, I found my husband because I knew why God was calling. And it's really funny when I say that because so we lived in an apartment complex, and right across the street was a storage unit, and my husband would go to that storage unit like weekly because it was everything for him because he's a military man, and so that was where he stored everything because he lived in an apartment too. And I was always walking our dog along the road there, and we never met. And we were always at the same gas station. We never met until someone said to me, "You want to meet this man?" And I fought for almost 2 years. No, I'm not going to meet any guy because I don't know where God's going to take me, and I'm not interested in dating. And finally, I gave in and said, "Yeah, I'll meet him for coffee." And we met for like 10 minutes. I'm like, "Okay, now I have to go." I'm like, "I have to go pick up my kids," which was the truth. But also, when you go meet a stranger on a blind date, you just never know. And I just didn't know. And I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And it was the best 10 minutes of my life. But when I left him, I'm like, "Yeah, we'll see." And he sent me this little cute, it wasn't anything fancy. I mean, it was small. It was a little itty bitty bouquet of flowers. Probably cost him an arm and a leg is how he sent it. And I always tell him that, I'm like, don't send things that way anymore. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. And so I thought, that's really sweet of him doing that to me for me. And I went on a second date, and he went to lean in and kiss me. And I looked at him. I'm like, oh no, I'm not that kind of girl. And he liked that about me, that I wasn't that kind of girl. I wasn't just someone that you can put on your mantle, that I was more than that. And so I invited him over for lunch the next day. And I said, FYI, you're going to meet my two best friends, and you're going to meet my children and their kids. And if you can't handle it, there's the door, buddy, because it's not going to change. you know? And like I said, 4 months later, we were married. But it's part of that story that brought us to who we are today, too, going through those hardships, being a single mom. I think so many people say, oh, you're just a single mom, but people didn't know I was single because I was not going to let my girls become a statistic. I wasn't ever going to have them labeled as a single mom. So I was, and I'd say Wonder Woman at times, but at times I was Wonder Woman, because my girls were that important to me that I had to make sure that I was both the mother, the father, and then make sure that they were always being fed by the Holy Ghost in the process of it, because God was our center, and He still is our center. So making sure that always stayed true was very important in our lives and still is today. And I'm blessed because of it. And, then I had to reinvent myself after I graduated college. So, because then I was married at the time, because we got married really quick, within a couple of weeks. And then um, I had to say, all right, now I'm going to follow this man around. What am I going to do? And before I knew it, I started helping with nonprofits and found out that was really my niche in life. And I knew I could make a bigger impact helping nonprofits raise funds that were really necessary to advance their mission. But I didn't just work for any nonprofits. I always worked and always have worked for nonprofits that are close to my heart. Um, when we lived in Washington State, I worked for a nonprofit that granted wishes for kids, which I loved. But I also worked for a homeless shelter for women, which is another big, huge need in life. We moved from Washington State to Texas, where we currently live, and we've been here 18 years now. The first thing that I did for almost 9 years, I worked for another at-risk youth shelter, raising much needed funds for youth in their safety, not only for mental health, but for shelter, which is really important too. And then I went on and worked for a cancer organization. We were talking about that earlier. Love cancer organizations, still donate to them, still work for them in different ways, but just not working for them now. And now I'm on to the diabetes platform, which is important to me too. So many times I think we always say, oh, that's just diabetes, but it can affect your life and it affects everything that goes along with it. Because when you're not feeling good, guess what? You're not having quality of life. And to me, you, wi- having life without quality of life is not the same. You need both, and it needs to be paired together. And so I'm honored to have this opportunity to work in a different way. And I work behind the scenes most of the time, and that's what most people like. Okay, how do you do that? And I'm like, I love putting on events. I love putting on the parties. I love inviting people to the party, and I'm blessed to have this moment where I can still give back.
And you're able to give back in all these fun, different, unique ways. And I agree, like you said, you know, quality of life is huge. My father-in-law lived with us. He was part of the package deal when I met my husband. My father-in-law and three generations lived under one roof. And he had diabetes, and I saw the complications and how much of his life it affected. So that's with all these different things you talk about, right? Is the cancer and youth and all this stuff. So how rewarding is that you get to work on all these different projects, even behind the scenes, because there's so much work to be done behind the scenes. I have all these great organizations that are always looking for people to volunteer to help with a lot of the behind the scenes work. And maybe it's not glamorous, but it's still fulfilling being able to have that opportunity to serve.
Oh, 100%. Well, and see, that's my professional life. Volunteering on the other side is a whole nother life. Last year, I gave just shy of 1,000 hours volunteering because I believe that there's still other missions out there that I need to help with. And one is for the soldiers. I believe wholeheartedly in giving back to our military. My husband's a military man, so how can I not give back to the military, right? Another one, we were talking earlier about the rodeo. We have a huge rodeo in San Antonio, Texas, and it's going on right now. And it's something that really makes a huge impact for a lot of children to make sure that they can earn a college scholarship and get those funds that they need to advance their education and give back, when they can. And so those are just a couple of organizations. And then I help run a local scholarship pageant, giving back that way. So there's so many other ways to give back. You just got to get involved in your community and make an impact wherever you possibly can, because it matters. It really does matter.
100%. There's so many things, like you said, so many different organizations and entities that you can volunteer and give back either your time or donation of items or donation of money. I think it's huge. I know we're coming close on our time, so I want to make sure if there's something that we haven't covered that you want to make sure we do, or if you have some final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience.
Yeah, I think sometimes we forget to celebrate each other, and it's something that I think is really important. It's something that Queen of the World stands for, is to celebrate women and empower women. Um, and I just want to encourage others to do that. Find something in your community to log on to and to get involved with, and to really, really focus and give your heart to. It's going to make a difference for someone, and it's going to make a difference for you. And I'm excited to see that growth and hear about it, and link with me on social media. We'll link some of my social media to here, because I want to support you just like you're going to support me in life, and empower you to grow, to be wholeheartedly your whole self.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate your time and all of your insight. And what a really fun story that we had to share. We'll definitely have all the links in the description below. So check them out. Give Susan a follow. Again, thank you so much for your time and being here today. I really appreciate you.
Same very much. Thanks, Jessica, for inviting me, and I look forward to supporting you and your adventures ahead. So,
Same. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. If you found this episode inspiring, please share it with someone you never know who needs more light in their life. May this serve as a reminder that there's always darkness in the world. Do not let it consume you. Always seek the light. Please take a moment to do the good old subscribe, rate, and review. Your support means so much to me, and it helps me spread more light and love. Until next time, be kind, be loving, be human, and don't ever let anyone steal your hope.